Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where you'll hear stories about people who truly believe they can do whatever they want just by being themselves. Guys, in this episode, you'll hear 3 super entitled stories. So the first story, an entitled woman gets her first job ever. The second story, a Karen gets mad because her neighbor cuts down his tree. And we'll finish up with a mini Karen who tries to push around a cashier. My friends, I do hope you enjoy the stories today and hit that subscribe button for future stories. Let's dive in. So, I worked at a grocery store at a full-service meat counter. This means if you wanted any type of meat, like steaks, chicken, fish, etc., you had to get it from me behind the counter. This place was also in a fairly rich neighborhood, so we had plenty of rich, entitled customers. Now, this is a long story that I've been wanting to share for a while. This is the story of the entitled woman who worked only one day. Now, this took place right after a massive storm took out power all across town, and our store just happened to be one of the first places to get it back. This woman was a regular customer, but she was not one of our typical clientele. She was most likely living on welfare. She was very disheveled in appearance, but not homeless, and loved to come into our store. Every time she came in, she would tell the cashiers how she was constantly applying for a job here, and once they gave her a job, everything would be perfect, and her life would turn around. So after a few months of this bragging, we decided to help her and actually give her a job. She seemed like a lovely lady, and we were short-staffed due to the storm. I wasn't there when she was told she got the job, but I heard she started sobbing and gave the store manager a hug, thanking him over and over until she left. On her first day, there was another small storm. This would be perfect for her, as the rain usually keeps out customers, limiting traffic so she can learn the basics easier. However, when time came for her to clock in at 10 o'clock, she was nowhere to be seen. We wondered where she was, hoping she was able to make it here okay. 10 minutes later, nothing. 15 minutes later, still nothing. 20 minutes, and we were really starting to get worried that something may have happened to her. She finally shows up at 10:30 looking for the working assistant manager, Kelly. Kelly usually trains the cashiers, as she's also the manager of the front end. So as Kelly is teaching the woman how to use our clock-in system, she mentions to the woman that in fact, she is 30 minutes late to her shift. The woman casually says that she's not late and that she's perfectly on time. Red flag count number 1. Kelly then points to the screen on the hand scanner and says, "Look, the clock here says 10:35. You showed up here 5 minutes ago." The woman then says, "Well, your clocks must be wrong then. You should really get that fixed." That was red flag number 2. So we work on getting her to a register to train her on the point of sale system, as she's only supposed to be there until 2. But at 11:30, she notices that the younger kids who were there before her are going on lunch break. She decides that this is a good time to take her lunch break. Kelly notices her taking off and asks where she's going. The woman says, "I'm going on lunch." Well, actually, because you're only meant for a 4-hour shift, the company policy dictates that you don't get a break. You get 15 minutes with no punch-out for 5 hours. 15 with punch-out for 6 hours, and half an hour with punch-out for 7 and up. The woman then says, "Really? There's no way that I can just go out really quick?" She tried to give Kelly crocodile tears and puppy dog eyes, which was red flag number 3. Kelly says, "I'm sorry, maybe later though, you've only been here for an hour." So fast forward 15 minutes to 11:45, where she once again piped up to Kelly and said, "Hey Kelly, do you think you can hold the front end down here? I need to use the restroom." Kelly agrees and the woman leaves to go to the bathroom, which are located in the employee's break room. A few minutes later, the kids in the break room are reporting a terrible smell. After 15 minutes, the woman emerged from the woman's room with a distinct smell of cigarette smoke. Red flag count infinity. So our store is a strictly no smoking area. If you want to smoke, you have to do it outside. Kelly went into the ladies' room to investigate the smell, and the woman had lit a cigarette, enjoyed her smoke, and put it out on the toilet seat. She melted the plastic and did not even flush the cigarette away. So reasonably pissed off, Kelly brought the woman to the back room and asked her what that was all about. The woman explained that she thought that Kelly was being unreasonable, and since she couldn't take her smoke break with lunch, she decided that it would be best to take it in the bathroom. When she asked why she had to melt the toilet seat, her response was, "Where else am I supposed to put it? You guys don't do the whole indoor smoking thing." Knowing that she was aware of the smoking policy when she violated it was enough to force Kelly's hand into firing her. She consulted with the store manager and he agreed. When they gave her the news, her reaction was what we had more or less expected out of her. Kelly says, I'm sorry, but you're fired. This is ridiculous. You've only been here for an hour and a half. The woman interrupts and says, What? No! I've been here for 2 hours. I got here at 10 o'clock. Kelly says, You showed up here at 10:30. You vandalized store property, and because you're being so unfair to me, I should have a break. I've been here long enough to get one. Now, at this point, Kelly is clearly fed up with the woman's interruptions and says, Get out. And the woman says, Well, where's my paycheck? You'll be able to get your paycheck next week on Tuesday. Your time here has not been processed yet. The woman screams and says, No, I demand my money now. I worked hard for it. You guys owe me exactly $16.71. Kelly tells her that she'll be able to pick up the check later, and she says, No. Where is the store manager? I want my $16.71. So the store manager, hearing the commotion, left his office, and he didn't even need to ask what was going on. The small store made it very easy to know what was going on. The store manager says, You will not be getting any money until Tuesday next week. And the woman says, That's against the law. You have to pay me. Where's my form? The store manager asked, Form? What form? So I can get me my unemployment. So basically the store manager told her to get out. She's not getting any forms and that she's being charged for the property she's damaged, so there isn't even any paycheck. She left to her car, peeled out all over the parking lot, and drove in front of the store, flipping the bird at anybody who was looking before she left. Looking at the clock, she did not even last past 12:30. We never saw her again. Guys, it sounds to me like this woman was trying purposely to get fired so she can go on unemployment, which doesn't even work that way. This person right here says she may have just been submitting applications to prove that she was looking for work and never expected them to hire her, so she blew it to continue doing what she was doing. So, what do you guys think? Do you think she was really looking for a job and realized it sucked when she wasn't allowed to do what she wanted to? Or was she trying to scam the system? So, I've been living away from home ever since graduating from college. My parents both recently retired, and last summer they decided to use some of the money they'd saved up to finally build their dream retirement home in New Orleans. Now, I come from a very tight-knit family, so I still talk to my parents every week. And they were so excited when they said they'd already picked out the location where they wanted the house built. It was an empty lot in a nice neighborhood where a house had been demolished not too long ago due to age. Anyways, my parents snapped it up as soon as they came on the market, but not too long after construction began, they realized that they were building their dream house right next door to a wild Karen. So the trouble started when my parents had to cut down a large oak tree that sat in the front lot. It was a real beauty too, one of those big southern live oaks, and although they didn't want to, they knew they had to remove it because it was in the way. No one likes to cut down a big beautiful tree, and believe me, if there was a way to avoid it without impeding the construction, my parents would have taken it. So they called a tree removal service, and the tree was soon gone. Well, a few days after the tree had been cut down, my dad was on the property talking to some of the construction guys and making sure everything was going smoothly. He was going back to his car when he saw the woman in her late 50s walk out of the house next door and head to her mailbox. My dad, let's call him John, is a pretty chilled and laid-back guy who likes to be on good terms with everybody, so he walked over and introduced himself. He said hi and held out his hand. My name's John, and my wife and I are gonna be your neighbors once our house is finished. I just wanted to come say hi and introduce myself. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Karen glances at the extended hand and then looks up at my dad and glares at him and says, I'm not gonna shake your hand because of COVID. And even if there was no COVID, I still wouldn't shake your hand because you people cut down my tree. It was a beautiful tree, and I enjoyed looking at it. I still can't believe how selfish you are. You should both be ashamed of yourselves. Now, my dad was taken aback by this and pointed out that Karen already had a nice big oak tree in her backyard. But Karen ignored him and stalked back to her house. She never explained why she thought that she was the owner of that tree, not once. And whenever my parents asked about it, she refused to answer. I guess it's just one of those things that we'll never know. My parents met some of the other neighbors that day, including a nice couple who lived in the other house next to Karen's. When my dad told them what happened, the neighbors said that Karen was like that to everybody, and nobody in the neighborhood liked her. They also said that Karen had been nasty to them for a long time, and that they were in the process of selling their house because they couldn't stand living next door. Karen soon began living up to her reputation. For months, whenever my parents would visit the house to see how construction was coming along, she'd find something to complain about or confront them about. One time, she said that the construction workers were being too loud and she threatened to call the police, even though it was the middle of the day. Another time, she said the construction company was using illegal immigrants as cheap labor and threatened to call ICE and have the whole project shut down. My dad mentioned this to the owner of the company, and the owner sent Karen a formal letter threatening a lawsuit if she tried. I don't know if there was any actual grounds for a lawsuit, but the threat must have worked because ICE never showed up. Oh, and then there was a time she tried to have my parents' car towed for illegally parking when they parked on the curb of their unfinished house. I could go on. Karen did everything she could think of to try and interfere. She was absolutely relentless in her crusade to avenge the tree that she never even owned. Happily, the house was completed despite her best efforts, and my parents finally moved in not long after the holidays. My mom told her that she caught Karen watching them bitterly from her window as they were taking some of the boxes inside. She was concerned that Karen might keep going and try something else, but I guess Karen was too busy wallowing in self-pity over her failure because things were actually quiet for a while. But a few weeks ago, things changed. New Orleans had some really bad weather lately due to winter storms, and one night, one of the storms was so powerful that it knocked over the tree in Karen's backyard. It missed falling onto her house, but it didn't miss falling onto her shiny new Jaguar and crushing it like a beer can. According to my folks, Karen did not discover what happened until the following morning. When she came outside and saw the pile of scrap metal that used to be her car, she threw back her head and let out a primal scream, like something out of The Exorcist. She had to pay to have the tree removed, and then she had to pay for a tow truck to get rid of the car. Karen put her property up for sale and moved out not too long afterward. Everyone in the neighborhood was glad to see her go, and my parents watched her drive off into the sunset from the porch of their amazing new house. Well, this Karen definitely sounds like a great neighbor to have, guys. Maybe Karen was just a tree lover, and that she was just upset that another big, beautiful oak tree was lost to make way for a house. I love this person's comment right here. R.I.P. That tree took one for the team to better the neighborhood. And it truly did, my friends, because nobody wants to live next to a Karen. So I work at a trendy store in one of the wealthiest zip codes in America. Most people I serve could probably buy my whole store with their pocket change. So naturally, I see quite a few rude, entitled, generally bratty customers. Worse than those bratty customers are their brattier children, believe it or not. As a result, it isn't uncommon for me at all to deal with some incredibly impolite behavior from kids, whose parents do absolutely nothing, or even encourage it. So today I was on the cash register. During a slow time, a little girl rushes up to me, and she's no more than 7 years old. She's waving a balloon animal on a stick in my face, throwing some product down and then screaming, "Make it snappy, I have places to be, chop chop." So being in retail, you develop a thick skin for these kind of people, so I just smiled at the kid and began to wring her out. Then her mother appeared, as if by magic, behind her. She crouched down beside her kid and calmly explains that such a behavior is unacceptable, and that she should be polite to workers, and if she did not behave better, her mother would take her home without buying her anything at all. She then made her daughter apologize to me, and she also apologized profusely herself for her daughter's behavior. I've gotten so used to kids being disrespectful with no intervention from their parents, that this woman made my day. I really appreciated the empathy she clearly demonstrated, and the simple action she took to appropriately correct her child. Everyday heroes do exist. Now that, my friends, is a wonderful parent. 10 out of 10, Mom. Good job on preventing any more future Karens. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /EntitledPeople. Guys, we survived. If you enjoyed the episode today, do hit that thumbs up button. And if you missed the last episode of our /EntitledPeople, a Karen shames OP for being a nail technician when her son is a pharmacist. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you. I really do.